All right. So I'm going to do a sound test on my phone. All right. So I'm going to do a sound test on my phone. Testing one, two, three. Testing one. All right. So I'm going to do a test on my phone. Testing one, two, three. Testing one. So I'm going to do a test. Can you do more? Can you do more of a sound test, Ash? Can you do more? Okay, yeah. Let me see if. Yeah, I'm waiting for the audio to catch up. Uh oh. Okay, yeah. Let me see if. I don't think I could hear you, so let me see what I. Okay. I could hear maybe a little small buzzing. Maybe it was just like. Yeah. Let me. Um. Yeah. 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 Apologies for anybody who's listening. We're just ironing out some last minute technical difficulties. So okay. Let's see. Can you try? Can you try that again? Can you try the sound test?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I am Ash of HTR Gaming. This is my best friend HR/HR Streaming, and we are here to talk about She-Ra, my favorite animated show of all time, and I am super excited.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we can hear you. Excellent.
Awesome. Perfect.
All right. Uh, Excellent. So, yeah. So as um, so yeah, this is a discussion about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power from DreamWorks, the 5 season cartoon that had just wrapped up like less than a month ago. And this is going to be a spoiler heavy discussion. And this is, and I'm HR with Hidden Ranger Streaming. This is Ash of AshTR Gaming and AshTR Entertainment. Basically a media mogul. Um, yeah. So and we've got we've had a third person that was one come in from the conversation. Claire at Claire Void on Twitter, but she hasn't. But yeah, she wasn't able to get uh, back to me on yeah. Like if she's able to join us, then great. She can let me know and we can I can have her jump in on this Discord call. But yeah, we were actually going to do this yesterday, but I did do a lot of like wrangling to get all this to work because it's been a while since I've streamed, and certainly been a while since I've had any kind of like audio conversation over a stream on this. So I had to get all this stuff to work, and it turned out I had to do some updating of the OBS software. But anyway, all that aside, so how are you doing, Ash?
I am doing amazing, and the reason why is because we are going to be discussing, like I said before, my favorite show, arguably in animation history. It is chock full of diversity, and on top of that, the writing is so incredible, so immaculate that it's beyond compare, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is and that is saying something considering um considering how much TV that I know for a fact Ash watches and how many video games I know for a fact she plays. Um so yeah. Um Doing a little bit of retweeting and some notifications that we've started.
All right.
Mhm.
And I just tweeted out the stream as well. So once again, if you are following us right now, we appreciate it. We love having you in, and mostly we can't wait to talk more in depth about this show. Just a variety of things: the writing, the animation, specifically the voice acting, the direction by Noelle Stevenson at Ginger Hazing on Twitter. The creator herself, she is amazing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, like I was excited for the show when I first heard about it, and then actually seeing it, absolutely blew me away because like everybody on the because all the characters on the show were incredibly charming, and then it just it the stakes kept getting raised, and it just became this utterly phenomenal show, and also one that was very that was like unashamedly like LGBT, and so it was kind of kind of a fortunate bit of uh, of unintentional timing that this stream is happening on the first day of Pride Month, even with all the utterly like you know chaotic and frightening things that are going on out in the world. This is at least this is at least a how do I put it? This is a um, this can be kind of a respite from it, or at least a little bit of a breather, because we're talking about something really awesome and uh, colorful and positive, so there's a bit of positivity. So um, so to start with, let's see. So those I guess those are our initial thoughts on the series so far. So um, let's see. Let's at least try to get some discussion out of the way before we get into like the really spoiler heavy things, but let's see. So favorite character.
Favorite character. I actually was discussing with another friend on Twitter, as it just so happens that this is among the hardest discussions for me to have, specifically because of how beautiful and amazing the writing was for every character. I genuinely feel that there is no wrong answer. And on top of this, I fought with myself. I can say, as I told my friend on Twitter, uh, that in season one, it was definitely Catra. I loved her voice acting, specifically by AJ Michalka. I believe that pronunciation is right.
I think so.
Uh, and I also love the writing for the character. And I thought that as far as like overall throughout the series, she might very well be the most compelling character. But eventually, my favorite character, it balanced between Adora, Glimmer, Bo, even Catra. But I honestly, if I have to pick an answer, which, like I said, it's so hard for me because every character is amazing, it's that I want to pick someone who relates, who I feel is most relatable, and that for me was Spinnerella.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Spinnerella was a lot of fun.
a character who is so full of love, full of light, has that other person that also makes them feel alive and also wants to feel alive with them, while also being a more chubbier girl like myself.
Hmm.
That is something I instantly connected with. I think that's something I love so much about her, and also Glimmer as well. They both beautiful characters inside and out, and I love the design for them and that representation that they bring as well. That yeah, you know what, they're not skinny chicks, but you know what, they're still beautiful, they're still amazing, they're still amazingly written, and they are treated just as well as any amazing character in this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, what's funny is that Spinnerella and Natasa, those two were basically had almost nothing to do in the first season, and like they were seen. They maybe had one or two lines of dialogue. There was a little bit of you know dialogue to them and about them, but otherwise it's just like well, okay, um, you know, and then like their relationship, like grew more and more, or rather, what we saw of their relationship grew more and more. So they went from like background characters, to like characters who had an increasing amount to do with the plot, and then like by season five, they have taken, like they have not so much taken center stage, but their presence is hard to miss, and it was really fascinating. So let's see. So yeah, Catra is a really compelling character, and like
Very polarizing.
very polarizing. Yeah, and I believe that was for an excellent reason, because like to do anything.
Hello,
Oh, can you?
HR, where'd you go? There you go.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, you okay? You lost me. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I hope the stream hasn't lost me yet. Like, most of the reasons that I've been like looking away
Oh,
is that
stream is offline.
the stream is offline. Oh no,
Oh,
is it?
it just came back on.
Okay, yeah. There was like a momentary hiccup. Yeah, I've been watching this like a hawk, trying to see whether or not I'm still on. So yeah. And if it kicks us offline, then well.
I think we may need to repeat that last minute or so if we can go back to that.
Okay, so last minute. Yeah, Ketra. Yeah, she's a very like fascinating and polarizing sort of character. She,
Yes, and
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
and I think it's because one of the reasons is that she doesn't do anything by half measures. Like, if
So sorry everyone for the audio tease. I am trying to figure out on my end as well what we can do. I apologize.
Am I cutting out on your end?
A little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, luckily so far you're not cutting out on mine. But anyway.
Yeah, like I said, Catra, she's indeed a polarizing character, and what I want to talk about, if I may, was just how seamless the writing was from season 1 to season 5. And I'm gonna be honest as well, by the way, very controversial among some fans, maybe some not so. But everyone can see that from, I would say, season 1 to I would say maybe even season 4, she was a very difficult character to like.
Oh yeah, she would. Yeah. And that was on purpose because because there are characters that aren't necessarily there to be liked or agreed with, and and she's definitely, like I said, a character who doesn't do anything by half measures, so that when she's you know when she's angry, she's enraged. When she's oh, are we offline now?
Let me check. It says on my end that we're still live, so we are
Oh,
good,
okay.
sir.
Let me let me double check on my end because it. Oh, this is annoying.
We are totally professional, everyone.
Yes,
We
yes,
promise. Professional being that we don't get paid, but we enjoy doing this.
yeah. And what's funny is that I wasn't able to figure out how to get the name of this particular stream or the description of it um, posted ahead of time. So it's basically uh,
For now, it is gameplay, specifically episode 1 of City of Heroes Homecoming, and the title, Let There Be Creation.
yeah. And I'm trying to remember if I ever actually did that stream or if that was something that I was that I was that I had entered into YouTube intending to do, and then I just didn't do it, and now this is pretty funny. So, but believe it or not, this is a this this is a Shira stream, and I know 100% of what I'm doing, but
But yeah,
anyway, but yeah, we
back
do seem to be
to
still going, so that's good. And hello to anybody in the stream who's watching, which is probably just Ash. But anyway,
yes, back to the top of Catra, specifically her transition. It was very, for me personally, it was very hard because I was one of the more headstrong people. I would say, if anybody follows me on Twitter, she really got under my skin. I grew to not only dislike her, but actively root against her. And where I want to go with this specifically is talking about how hard it is as a writer, and at the same time, how hard it is to just make everything so seamless and fluid and not forced. And in my opinion, more so than any character in any show ever, I personally love the writing for Catra in season 5. Season 5 specifically of Catra was the greatest I guess you could say in wrestling terminology, it was the greatest face turn of ever.
yeah, and yeah, we might as well get into the spoilers of it. Yeah, that is the really interesting thing um, about Catra because she kept getting worse and worse and worse through most of the series, and basically she kept like um, like uh, working her way into a position where she can basically be indispensable and then take over when she feels the need to. So she's basically been like rather ruthlessly rising through the ranks, and and it was and she kept doing that to such an extent, and she was like so like vindictive about the way she went about it, that it's like, okay, how are they going to redeem this character, or are they going to? And for the longest time, I was convinced that what they were doing is intentionally making her this way, so they can point out one of the themes of the She-Ra series, which is like accepting and moving on from like abusive relationships, whether it's someone's abusive upbringing, or whether it's a friendship, or whether it's a romantic relationship. Like basically like identifying the toxicity and cutting it out, and basically being like, okay, no, no, you are not good for me at all. So I'm going to get as far away from you, and if you are harmful to other people, I'm going to actually stop you. It's that kind of thing. And so
Right.
I spent the longest time convinced that that's where they were going, and they would have been well within their rights the entire time to they would have been well within the rights the entire time to continue on with that, and I would have been just fine, because hey, that actually is a you know very important message for young people, is what do you do with the toxic people in your life, you know. But it turns out they
You
went.
fall in love with him, that's what.
I mean, well, when it's put that way, it's like it is rather it is kind of sketchy, but the way
But
they
the
they
best part, yeah, the best part, in my opinion, if I may, is that the thing that also is so beautiful, specifically in season five, is that love is really the power of everything. I mean, love not only redeems people, but love gave everyone the power to succeed or to save the world or to become a better person. Love is really at the core of this show, and not just from a viewer's perspective either, but for the characters as well. And that to me is not only the greatest message to send to anybody in the world, but at the same time, really a great foundation for a show. We've seen so much drama in a show, and rightfully there has to be a rise and fall in a story. But love at its core is amazing.
oh yeah, I absolutely agree. And yeah, and love is a powerful motivator, and it is one of those things in writing. It's like, well, what is like stories can't really happen unless the character wants something, and it's a case of, well, what does your character want? And a lot of times, what they started out wanting and what they thought they want changes over time, and and it ends up being, what do the characters, actually get, or what do they realize they actually needed. And I think that was part of Catra's redemption arc, and why it worked the way they did, because I have spent a lot of time like thinking about this, and you know why her redemption arc worked the way it did, like despite, like against all odds. And I think it's that they really did identify what, um, like what she wanted, what she thought she wanted, what she actually needed, and what it would take to unseat her from the course that she was going. Because, like I said, she had this habit of making herself a through sheer willpower, an indispensable um, part of whatever group she was in. And up until recently, it was the Horde. So she made herself indispensable, and she was really vindictive about the way she went about it. And of course, this being the Horde, she was rewarded time and time again for it. So so she basically like looked at any situation and was like, okay, well, um, how can I help myself? And more importantly, how can I hurt everybody else? Because, when she feels like she's hurt, then she wants to help, she wants to hurt other people because then she feels like she wins. And that is certainly the kind of person who exists in real life, that kind of thing. But uh, where the turn happened was basically kind of an understanding of this term in psychology and sociology called the Peter Principle, which is somebody getting promoted to the level of their own incompetence, or the idea that that if the thing they're doing is working, then they'll continue to do it. Especially if it will get them promoted. So they'll keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, through promotion after promotion after promotion until it stops working for the position they're in, and then they're stuck there, or they crash and fall hard. This is something that lots of people encounter in real life, and we were basically seeing that unfold with Katra, because in season 5 she was basically the uh, top ranking horde person on Etheria, and so she was basically like, okay, well, now I have this opportunity to be promoted, and I'm going to try and see if I can work my way into being Horde Prime's right hand woman. And then Horde Prime was like, no, no, that's not going to work. You're not going to do that. You're especially not going to, pun intended, hoard um, all the information that you learn and then just kind of piecemeal it to me so that you can remain useful. I'm not going to let you do that because I am my own information network. And,
And
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say another thing I feel like I noticed as well, especially with her relationship at the very end of season 4 with Hordak. I feel like the path that she was going, the trajectory, wasn't even really to be Prime's number 2. I think that if she felt like she could take him, she wanted to be in charge of everything.
Oh,
She struck me as that kind of person.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that was basically what she was doing. I mean, like Hordak got Hordak was absorbed immediately back into Horde Prime's like collective, and we will talk in depth more about him soon. I promise you,
Mm.
but because I am really fascinated by Horde Prime. But anyway, um, but yeah, like that's basically the kind of thing that Horde Prime saw in Catra. Like he knew that if he gave her an inch, she was going to take a mile, and like if he made her his right hand woman, then she was going to be running the place within a year.
Right.
He just shut it down as soon as possible. He's like, no, you are my guest, and you will continue to be my guest in good standing, provided that you worship me, and there will be no further discussion on the matter. It was basically that sort of thing. So then Catra's like, well,
She's far too
shit.
headstrong.
Yeah, yeah. She's like, well, shit. And then, so like the the thing that she has done this entire time to protect herself, to basically feel like she's worth anything, hasn't just is not in a position where it works. So now she's trapped, and she's trapped on a ship in deep space where she is surrounded by everybody who looks like the guy who just said nope. And then like and then it's like, okay, well, what's left? And then the only thing left, or rather there were two things left. One of them was Glimmer, the other like captive on the ship, who was basically a lot more honest about the fact that she was a captive. She was in acceptance, while Glimmer, yeah. Glimmer was in acceptance while Catcher was in the bargaining stage of that, because Catcher
Yeah.
was bargaining hard and it just wasn't working. So finally, those two just kind of sought some companionship in each other, and I thought that was a really interesting way to go about it. I thought that was really neat, especially considering the kind of parallel um, paths that their characters had taken throughout the seasons. Because Glimmer was like, rising in power and also alienating her friends as well, just in a bit of a different way than uh, than Catra was. But they were both rather ruthless about the way that they were doing it. So
Right.
um, it was a kind of a redemption for the both of them, and the two of them, like, seeing how badly they screwed up, and yeah, seeking solace and comfort in each other, and through different like podcasts and discussions that I've seen, I do like I do like that that one of the notable scenes in that episode Corridors, that was basically about about their relationship, or those two, like, finding comfort in each other, like in the oppressive corridors of the spaceship, that their conversations ended up, like, particularly when the conversation turned to Adora, it was basically like about like uh, two people commiserating about a shared ex, basically. Like somebody that they'd either been like you know really deep friends with, or somebody that they'd like dated or something like that, and the person they were both talking about was Adora.
Right.
So it was, so yeah, that was something that a lot of people um, picked up on, was, those two were bonding on Adora. And that also brings me to the second thing that Catra had left, which was Adora, and, or rather, her feelings for Adora, which Horde Prime straight up called out. Like, he noted her reaction to watching footage of She-Ra getting overrun by the Horde, and getting hurt. And he in a very calculated way, just noted her, like, dilated pupils and her increased blood pressure, and like all these little telltale signs that she was really concerned about She-Ra. And it's one of those things where Catra was like, "No, that's not the case at all. No, But now that Horde Prime brought it up, she can't think of anything else. It's like that is now the only thing that is on her mind. And in retrospect, that's been there the entire time. Is, her, the fact that she cares about Adora, and the fact that she has feelings for Adora. She might not have actually understood the extent of what they were, but it was driving everything that she was doing, because she felt hurt by Adora, which means she felt the need to hurt Adora.
Right.
So
And if I may, I
yeah,
actually would like to rewind. Probably, I believe it's at the very end of season 4,
yeah,
but it does play into the larger story of what all transpired into her redemption arc.
hmm
Uh, for me, I you mentioned the talk between Catra and Glimmer, which was amazing. I loved it. I actually think that was the biggest driving force for her change. But
hmm
I think that the real prognosticator, the real start of it, if you remember in season 4 at the very end, was when she had her conversation with Double Trouble, who brought her down specifically to a peg. Like, okay, this is what happened. This is what you've done, and you've alienated everyone.
hmm Yeah, it was. Yeah, and like, and what's funny is that Double Trouble didn't actually go far enough when in that takedown, because they basically was saying, like, um, was like, I finally have you figured out. You push people away, that kind of thing, and like, didn't really get into the, like, specifics of why Catcher was pushing people away, but was definitely pointing out that everything that's happening to you, you're bringing on yourself. And that kind of thing. And So yeah, at the start of season 5, it even like we start getting into why she was pushing people away, and it's because she's basically trying to guard herself and defend against and like defend her um, and defend her hurt feelings. And yeah, that conversation between her and Glimmer was definitely a tipping point, because Glimmer flat out says, just do one good thing in your life.
And that hit me hard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, that made me emotional. It was such a good moment. It was such a good written scene that it definitely connected well, and it also helped with that redemption arc, in my opinion, as well. Not just for Catra, but as a viewer watching that, I feel like, you really felt like something was finally getting through to her.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was also like the perfect way to get through to Catra, for the simple reason that if Catra does one good thing in her life, well, that starts the ball rolling. Then
Hmm.
she's then able to do another good thing in her life, and another, and another. And it's and then that basically kind of echoes like the Peter Principle thing that I was talking about earlier, where she keeps doing the same thing until it no longer works. Well, now the path that she's on is doing a good thing.
Hmm.
And of course, like, what I like is that while um, is that while like she is forgiven by the others, and while like she is given an opportunity to do more, like nobody really lets her off the hook. Like they're like like she gets like she gets called on the carpet quite often for being the reason that Eternia is in the situation it's in now. you know
Right.
or at least one of the driving reasons. And I do like the idea of the redemption that she goes through. One, because like that's in the DNA of the show, because like if like the main character is a reformed horde soldier. you know
Right.
so like if the other rebels didn't have the capacity to forgive someone, then they never would have been able to accept Adora, Shira or not. And in fact, it's it's definitely abundantly clear throughout the series that Adora was accepted as Adora, not just as Shira. She was initially afraid that that was the only reason that anybody in the rebellion wanted her around, but it's been made abundantly clear to them. No, they they accepted and loved her for who she is,
Right.
and so with that capacity, they can then do that they can do the same thing with Catra. And one of the more amusing things was that like Catra then proceeded to feel as if she were being punished throughout her membership in the rebellion, and that's specifically because everybody was being nice to her and being playful with her, and she's like, "No, stop."
Yeah, that was honestly, I feel like season 5 was really the season of Catra, not just her redemption arc, and everybody all had their moment, including, like I said before, my favorite couple, Spinnerella and Natasa. But Catra, I really feel like after she got the ball rolling and she started becoming more of a group, part of the group rather, that to me signed something so beautiful, which was the developing friendship she had with everyone. I mean, Perfuma, naturally Adora, Glimmer, Bo. I mean, there were so many playful scenes, and I mentioned it on Twitter with another mutual of mine. It was so hilarious. But her first immediate encounter with Frosta, I was dying laughing.
Oh yes, the punch heard round Etheria. Yes, that was.
that for anybody that knows wrestling, that was an RKO out of nowhere. I literally she flew into the screen and just decked her.
She
I
might as
literally
she might as well have had a steel chair. Yeah.
yeah, it was quite hilarious, but ultimately with Frosta as well,
Yeah.
Catra was working her way into everybody's graces and uh I love that. I loved how playful it became because, in my opinion, with Frosta especially distrusting her, and even for a time, Perfuma was like, "Okay, this person's a Horde soldier. What the heck is she doing here?" Uh, it was not only playful, but it also showed specifically as a viewer that she has still a lot of trust to gain. She still
Hmm.
has to earn her way. You see, she may be trying, and Adora may vouch for her, but at the same time, she's affected and hurt so many people and done so many terrible things that no matter how much kindness she's showing immediately, she still has to earn her way and not fall back into the same pattern where
Hmm.
if someone does something negative to her, she responds back with even tremendously more negativity. So in season 5, we see her gravitate more towards listening, understanding, and realizing that she was in the wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and like if they ever do more Shira, whether it's like I don't know, a spin-off series or animated movie or comic book series, the way Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra continued in comics after the series. I would genuinely like to see more done with that, to the point that like I could even see like Katra and Hordak, even after they've been redeemed, basically having to do time for like war crimes, and like just them being given a period where like, okay, you guys have to do time. Although I'm not entirely sure how like how that would work, because like what we've seen in the series, their idea of their idea of imprisonment is basically like a lavishly decorated guest room.
This
Like,
is totally a prison.
yeah, it has throw pillows. Yeah, and like looking um, at the treatment that Shadow Weaver had when she was a rebellion prisoner, like like, okay, that like this is seriously the best you guys can do for a prison. I know for a fact some of you guys are absolutely ruthless when you set your minds to it. So, wow, you know, but so I don't know. I guess I don't know. Maybe the so I don't know. Maybe we're seeing the worst that they'll do to like war criminals, or or heck, maybe a fascinating bit for a follow up is seeing what the rebellion do to actually step up the way the way they want to actually punish war criminals. And unfortunately, as whatever we feel about them, Hordak and Katra do qualify. It they could probably at least stand to do some time, because there was quite a while in which they were oppressing the entire world. You know, and but
It's
oh, God,
it's one way to go about it, but personally for me, it's not really my thing, but
yeah,
I would say that as far as comics and a follow-up, I have actually been tossed about this ever since that cliffhanger, which, once again, spoiler alert, spoilers for anybody who hasn't gotten that far. But I want to once again reiterate, I love the ending. It literally felt like it left more for uh for a possible spinoff or a comic series or even a movie. But because of how beautifully it ended, how perfect it was, and even though it was kind of open ended, I feel like that I don't know. Personally, I wanted it so much to continue more, but then as I really spent some time to think about it afterwards and how happy I was after the series, I felt like there's no better way to have it. Noelle Stevenson on Twitter at Ginger Hazing,
Hmm.
she stated quite beautifully as well. She was like, we all probably feel the need to want to check in on our favorite characters, but eventually, with every story, you're going to have a new rising conflict, another story to tie back the characters and to have some reason to come back. And for me, I was like, you know what? Things ended so beautifully. I don't think that there needs to be any more because of that reason, because a new conflict would mean, granted, more of our characters, but at the same time, it uh it basically gives more interpretation to I wouldn't say ruin anything because by all means I still love everybody that puts in work into the show, but I feel like it for some people it could take away from that beautiful ending that they did have.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and I just sorry, I just noticed the chat and Callian is it? Hi, Henry. That's a friend of mine and a fellow writer on one of my side projects. But anyway, um, but yeah, yeah, that there's that thing where when you like continue a story, you also have to continue conflicts and whether it's a and whether a new conflict is like something that comes out something new that comes out of the woodwork or an expansion of an existing conflict that is maybe not completely resolved. Honestly, I like if they're going to do that, I would prefer the latter, which is expanding on the conflicts that they already have and things that will be um, uh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought, and things that will be that like all the ping pong balls that they already have in the air, because like um, I wouldn't necessarily say that the way it ending that the way it ended was a cliffhanger because they were
Oh
basically
yeah,
talking about maybe going on a trip to space to continue like liberating the rest of the cosmos. That was basically on their to do list, but it wasn't like a cliffhanger. And I have heard some people like describe it as a cliffhanger, but
yeah.
these days
For
people these days people like to like to um, use that term for any story that has like unresolved questions, which is most of them. So it's like, I think you might
yeah, I
be,
never got that.
yeah, yeah. It's certainly not a cliffhanger, but it is an unresolved issue. Oh, I just got from Callian in the chat. I would like to know where Adora came from. It doesn't have to be He-Man. I completely understand if they don't want to bring him in, but where did that portal lead? Honestly, yeah, that would be an interesting thing to do. Is maybe while Adora and the Best Friend Squad are in space, they track down more leads on where Adora came from, and they get to visit where where the first ones came from because Adora is the first one, and
True.
maybe there are still first people. Maybe there's not, but she could find some like remnants of that. And like what I think is really interesting is like if we assume that there actually is a Prince Adam, if there is a He-Man in this continuity, because for those who might not be aware, in the original '80s show, She-Ra, Princess of Power, was a spin-off of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and she was introduced as a spin-off, being Prince Adam's uh, twin sister Adora, and her and their parents were King Randor and Queen Marlena, and and uh, one weird fun tidbit that they introduced in an episode of He-Man was the idea that Queen Marlena was an astronaut from Earth who got like sucked through a vortex, and then she ended up on on Eternia, and then she like I guess settled down with King Randor because he was like, oh snap, a space woman, let me get a piece of that, and then and then romance, childbirth, etc. I do not expect like this She-Ra and the Princesses of Power continuity to do anything resembling that. But it is a fun thing. But it is a fun thing to think about, and it is kind of fun to speculate. It's like, okay, what does this mean for for an atom if he exists? Because nothing so far has said that she doesn't have that she doesn't have a twin brother somewhere. And in fact, I've been listening to a podcast. Shout out to She-Ra Progressive of Power. That For a while they were talking about the idea of of Adam not only being on the show but actually being somebody that we've seen on the show, and that person being, are you ready for this? Kyle from the Horde Cadets. Is that stunned silence, or you or did your audio cut out?
Hello. Sorry, I had restroom. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. So did you get any of that, or?
I missed that last part. I tried to mention in chat of Discord. I had to be right back. But
Oh, okay.
sorry. What was that?
Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the idea of like there being the possibility of Adora's counterpart of her twin brother Adam, aka He-Man, because
Right.
of course because of course uh, She-Ra Princess of Power was introduced as a spin-off to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the 80s, and she was introduced as um, as a twin sister he didn't know about, who was basically kidnapped as an infant and portaled off to Etheria so that she could be raised in the evil horde. And so yeah, I was talking about the about possibilities of there being an Adam in this show in She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Um, and I was even talking about a one bit of fan speculation that a podcast, She-Ra Progressive of Power, had talked about, and that was the idea that we've actually seen Adam on the show, and currently he's Kyle from the Horde Cadets.
That would be kind of something, but eh, I mean it's a
Yeah,
theory.
yeah, like I wasn't entirely feeling that either, but I did think it would be hilarious if that's what he turned out to be, because everybody on that show had dumped on him. Like, all those in favor of blaming Kyle, I
And on top of that, since we're on the discussion of Kyle, which also, by the way, goes into more of a discussion as well with Rogelio and my favorite of the trio, Lonnie, I want to once again talk about specifically something that's near and dear to my heart, and I love it, and I'm so happy to find out that it was confirmed. But polyamory rights. Let's
yeah.
just say I am so happy about that, and that was amazing.
Yeah, and hilariously, I think if Callian hadn't already been in the hadn't already been in this chat, I think that sentence would have summoned him.
Yeah, like I said, it was an amazing thing, and honestly, I had the slightest idea, but at the same time, that specific scene at the very end when we see them all three together with it appears to be a baby of theirs, or at least someone's.
I think I think that's the imp baby from the Fright Zone, the walking tape recorder, that really creepy baby who likes to
Oh yeah,
the really creepy baby who likes to crawl around and
yeah,
repeat whatever the
Hordak's a little buddy.
whom I think is like an attempt to grow a clone of Hordak, the way Hordak himself is, uh, was a clone of Horde Prime.
Right.
Kellyanne said, "It summoned my clone." That's funny. Um, but yeah, yeah, and I do like that like the last thing we see of Kyle and Rogelio and Lonnie is that they're just basically a thruple out there in Etheria. They are they are raising a baby, and they're just like, okay, screw the horde, and so yeah, while we saw almost nothing of them in the final season, that was mostly because their story was basically over by the end of the fourth season. So there was like basically nothing left to do but but check in on them. Although honestly, I would kind of love to see a horde trio um, like spin off that just follows them.
Yeah, I was gonna say personally, not that this is a fault of any writing, because I do feel like their story was wrapped up and everything was fine the way it was. But I will admit, I kind of did wish I saw them more. Maybe not exactly near the heart of where the battle was going, but just basically throughout the world. It would have been nice to have them be seen as part of the rebellion, where they're just basically fighting people in different areas as a strike team.
I mean, that would be neat. I kind of get the impression that when they did leave the horde, it wasn't so that they could fight someplace else. I think they were absolutely, deep in their bones, tired of fighting at all. So
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe it's just like a temporary vacation, if not a retirement from fighting, because honestly, they were raised to be like soldiers. So so one of two things is going to happen: either they're so fed up with it that they retire altogether, or it's in their bones and they find a different way to do the same calling. And hell, maybe they're part of the um, the restoration process. And Callian says, saw someone joking about there being a custody battle between the Thruple and Hordak slash Entraptive for Imp. That would be hilarious.
Well, that actually leads me into a topic I wanted to discuss, something that I had actually been shipping since I think it was season 2 or 3. Anyway, I saw what I knew it to be true, which was Hordak and Entrapta becoming closer and closer. You see, Hordak, we knew he was evil, but at the same time, uh, he was being guided by a more divine power to be who he was, kind of like how Zuko was, in my opinion, in Avatar. But that relationship between Hordak and Entrapta, I felt like it not only made him more receptive to another outside person, but Entrapta, being the amazing character that she is, she brought a light to him, and I felt like literally as early as season 2 or 3 when they got closer that something might have been a thing there. And the more it went on, I was shipping them, honestly. I was like, you know what, Hordak is going to be redeemed. He's just like Zuko from Avatar, and it's gonna be perfect. And I was so thrilled when it happened. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I really got to like Hordak and particularly Entrapta. Like Entrapta is one of my favorite characters on the show, and due in large part to the fact that she was written to be a character on the autism spectrum, and I am also on the spectrum. So it's kind of fun to see that kind of character, but but yeah, as far as Hordak goes, yeah, the more we find out about him throughout the series, the more it becomes clear that like what he's doing in the Horde is basically his attempt to like recreate what he had like as an extension of Horde Prime, and and everything he's doing on Etheria is like his like um, badly garbled and very frustrated attempt to impose the same kind of order that he's always had and that is expected of him. You know, because because all he wants to do is go back to Horde Prime, but he also wants to do that under the motive of see Horde Prime. See, I am a like I am I'm a defective clone of yours, but I am a worthy brother of yours. See, look what I've accomplished on this backwater planet with nothing but my but my like gutted spaceship and technology and some science projects. Oh, and a whole bunch of people that I have recruited into my fascist cause.
Hmm.
See how much see how much I'm helping. Like aren't I a good boy? And and he's basically doing all that because he doesn't know how else to be, and he doesn't find out how else to be for most of the series. But
And
yeah,
that's
and
why I liken him so much to Zuko from Avatar, because I feel like that he was the very obvious villain, the one that from season one we can see, okay, this is the main antagonist. This is really the person that our protagonist was going to be facing off against, trying to stop, and they seemingly couldn't be redeemed. But the more we see them and see their character and see their backstory and where they come from and why they are the way they are, we truly see that they are really just someone who fell on the wrong side.
yeah, and yeah, Callian, has a bit of dialogue as Hordak. Notice me, senpai, which which is basically what happened. Yeah, he really wants Hordak Prime senpai to notice him, and now granted, he ended up like effing up an entire planet to do that. You know, so yeah, what it ended up taking for his redemption story to really kick in is to understand his relationship to Horde Prime, which is seeing Horde Prime as a character and how screwed up that villain is. And just realize, oh, this is why Hordak is doing everything that he's doing. This is what he's grown up with. This is what he's lived with. This is the only way he knows how to be, and everything he's doing is a kind of tortured mirror image of that, of what he thinks is okay. So yeah, and Entrapta is basically something that actually gets him to consider a different way, and of course it starts out with her like making herself useful, in a different way than Catra did, but basically, you know, she likes science. Like she wants to surround herself in science at all times and discover everything that is mysterious and amazing about science. And
And
and Go
in
ahead.
my opinion, if I may interject, was that as good as Catcher was at causing damage, I'm gonna just say it is plain as day. And Trapta was the real reason why that whole operation became what it was.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, because she was the only one that Hordak met that actually like understood the technologies that he was doing. Like she's like, "Oh, is that a portal?" And so she was, yeah. And so he was like, "So you know what this is, all right?" And like and we can see his reluctance, gradually sliding off it the more he interacts with her, because like she can actually she's actually speaking the same language he is, which is technology to like explore other planets or like leave a planet, and because and I think most notably because she was only at first seeing him as a lab partner, she was looking at him with absolutely no judgment, which was absolutely refreshing to him because the entire time he's had the Horde Prime like punishing interior monologue that he's not good enough or not doing enough, and
Right.
she's the only one, and she's just like, yeah, but you're my lab partner. Let's solve this problem together. And oh, like I see what you're doing, but you're not using the right equipment for it. We're gonna need something that'll inject more power into it, or we'll just need like better connectors, And so he's just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna let you do what you do, and just let me know what I need to hand to you, okay? And it just kept going until like they genuinely cared about each other. And I think um, one of the more telling moments was in the Beast Island two-parter when they were reunited with Entrapta, and like the moment Hordak is brought up, like she has her ever-present like welding mask, that's kind of on top of her off her face. Like the moment the subject turns to Hordak, she drops it because and that's immediately preceded by this really distressed look on her face. Like all of a sudden, they're bringing up like a subject and emotions that she doesn't know how to deal with, so she's gonna have to hide her face, and which is which is something I instinctively do. Being on the autism spectrum is like, oh God, how is this look like? I'm feeling things, and what does this look like on my face? I need to hide my face right now. That kind of thing, and it's kind of like, maybe this will be a barrier between me and the sensory input, that kind of thing. And so yeah, those two really cared about each other, and um, because Entrapta, like, so you need to use the restroom again? Okay, I will. Sorry, I will.
I was hoping we didn't have to say that on air.
I'm sorry. I'm a moron. But go ahead. I will continue monologuing, and you can continue. You can. Oh, and shout out to Robert Bell in the chat. How is it going? Yes, this stream is incorrectly titled because I couldn't get the title changed. YouTube did something with the creators studio that now I can't that wasn't letting me do what I wanted it to do. But so yeah, this is the She-Ra and the Princesses of Power discussion stream um, with Ashley of AshTR Gaming, AshTR Entertainment on Twitter, and yeah, we have been talking about She-Ra. We've covered like Catra and Glimmer and like a little bit of Adora and Horde Prime, Hordak, and Trapta, and I will definitely say that yeah, I am enjoying the opportunity to talk about these characters because I really enjoy them, and I particularly like Entrapta as this you know fun little chaotic neutral gadgeteer on the autism spectrum. It's really fun. Um, so while we have a moment, Henry and Callian and Robert, how would you? Do you have any like insights on the show to like what do you guys think about She-Ra and the Princesses of Power? So because I'm definitely enjoying this. Um, I've definitely enjoyed all five seasons of the show, and I think it is definitely one of the better cartoons I have ever seen. And and yeah, there's like so many endearing characters, and yeah, I really like I really like how expressive the animation is. I like how there's a lot done with body language, and welcome back, Ash. Um, yeah. So yeah, I just um, I just asked uh, Robert and Callian, their thoughts on the show if they'd like to share it. But anyway, so yeah, I believe we were still on the subject of Entrapta and Hordak.
Yes, yes indeed. And yeah, once again, like I said, it was one of my favorite ships. I saw it coming probably from, like I said, the earliest it could be, but at the same time, I thought it was really well beautifully done. It started out as simple as, okay, she showed up and she was just there to help out. But Entrapta has this infectious personality. She is so lovable. She's so likable, and originally, like I said, if for her it was just the fact that she was useful to Hordak, but
Hmm.
she has a way of getting into your heart. She has a way of kind of making you feel things, even if you absolutely had no intention. And I love that progression specifically for Hordak's character, but I also loved what that became for Entrapta as well, because Hordak was really probably the closest friend she had, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, yeah, and she,
Next
sh
to Emily, I have to correct
Emily,
myself.
yes, yes, yeah, and I'd say, and Scorpio is definitely in there as well as one of her closest friends. But yeah, she's never been good with people, and she has a hard time connecting them. So technology and science are the subjects that are easier for her. So those are the things that she knows what to do with. So she'll try and interact with people through that lens as much as she can. And a comment from Callian. The character designs are all brilliant. Especially love Bo, second Shira look, and Natasha's. Okay, yes, we must talk about Shira's current look, which is very very
Yeah.
proudly at the center of this image. Um, that
Eh,
that white and gold outfit. Yeah, take it away, Ash.
Thank you. I knew you were reading my mind on this. She is, once again, I'd like to say, the Supergirl of this show. They gave her pants, my friend.
Yeah,
I was so excited when I saw it, and honestly, I knew going in, because of spoilers, unfortunately, that Cachadora was going to become canon. But when I found out that she had pants, I was like, there is no perfect comparison or analogy. This girl is, they literally had to have been inspired by Supergirl just a little bit.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of amazing the effect that our current pants costume has because it somehow slims her more than the previous outfit did, even though they're both similarly tight clothing. It's just the effect that it has makes it look like it's a more streamlined look, probably because it's not quite as busy from the hips down as her previous outfit was in some ways. But one thing about one neat thing about the design elements is that it's is that because she has but because she basically manifests this costume through her own willpower, that she has manifested design details from her subconscious. So her design details echo other other of her friends. Like for instance, those the gold those gold stripes on her thighs are basically wing shapes that are similar to to Glimmer's wings, or inspired by Glimmer and Angela. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and she has a heart shape from the design, like from her collar to her chest. There's a subtle heart shape being formed there, which is of course a reference to Bo. And then of course her headdress, looks like what Catra's headdress was until the final season.
You actually point out some very great things, something that went over my head actually. That is quite brilliant now that I think about it.
That would have gone over my head too, but I saw other people on Twitter talking about it, and then I think in like a website article or something, Noel Stevenson confirmed that that was exactly the thinking behind it. Was that was that those design elements were subconsciously informed by her connection to her friends. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, when we look at this costume design, we are seeing everything that is important to Shira, and particularly everything that's important to Adora.
Mm-hmm.
And
Indeed.
and yeah, Henry says the cape and the hair in the original design took up a lot of screen space. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, cycling back to Robert Bell's comment. I haven't watched a lot of the show. I think it handled its rather large cast better than most animated shows. Agreed. Catra's character development throughout the last few seasons is fantastic. Yeah, we were definitely talking about that. We spend a lot of time on her redemption arc and kind of all the elements of why it worked as well as it did. Kind of as a brief recap, we were talking about how um, her mode has basically been like she doesn't do anything in half measures. So when she hurts, she wants other people to hurt, as a defense mechanism. And she's been using that to get her to rise through the ranks of the Horde right up until it doesn't work anymore. And it stopped working when she started dealing with Horde Prime. So that kind of had to force her her character evolution and kind of her face turn, because the old way that she dealt with all of her problems wasn't working. But now she's on a different path, and it started with do one good thing in your life. And so her character arc pulled out of like the biggest nosedive I have ever seen in a character. It's like um Ashley and I have talked about this before, that we had thought that she was completely unredeemable, or like the way she kept pushing everybody away and like hurting everybody, that's like, okay, clearly she's not clearly they're not going to like cycle her around to actually being in a relationship with Adora, or probably ever being a good guy or anything like that. And that's probably fine, because she's probably the kind of like toxic influence to not have in your life. But they pulled her out of that nosedive, and I am amazed by how effectively they did that. But
Yeah.
oh
It
god.
and as we were talking about earlier in the beginning of the stream, uh, it is so hard to do any type of redemption arc because some arcs can either feel too forced and unearned, some can kind of feel a little too happy-go-lucky. Basically, it's just hard to give a perfect balance and also make it seem like it's natural rather than against the character because Originally, I thought it was going to be a very ending type redemption arc. I thought she was going to be redeemed in like the last episode based on the way that she was the first 4 seasons. And I loved how they actually decided to work towards the very beginning of season one, or excuse me, of season five's 13 episode slot. They had plenty of time to really redeem her and make her a part of the group and let her grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, yeah, like the entire time, like with particularly with the start of season 5, I was like, oh wow, they are not fucking around. They are like they are hitting the ground running, and like they kept ratcheting up to the extent to which they were not fucking around, and like with Katra, they had her immediately go in, like try and try to weasel her way into being Horde Prime's, second in command, or being her liaison to Earth, to get herself a nice cushy position there. And I'm like, oh God, are we going to go through another season of this? Really? And then almost immediately they yank the rug out of that particular plan. I'm like, oh, they're not fucking around with this. Yeah. And so they were basically doing everything that they had needed to do to like set her in a different direction, because, she basically had to hit rock bottom with her character. There had to be no other options but for her to need to work on her crap. And
Yeah.
it was really fun, and like we'd mentioned, earlier, one of the ways in which, like once she was on their side, and she was continuing to, and she was trying to redeem herself within the rebellion, she still felt like she was being punished, because now she was interacting with these like goofballs, and it's like, I can't believe we were losing to you. Like, you guys are idiots. You guys are annoying. What is wrong with you? She spent most of the season just, being driven up the wall by that, and it was a delight to see.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's see what else. Oh, um, since we were talking about She-Ra's redesign, one of the things I liked the most about this season, about season 5, was Catra's redesign, and the fact that, unlike Adora, she had gone through a bunch of different redesigns over the number of seasons. And
Hmm.
this one, which I delighted um, in saying on Twitter, and talking to Ash about, was the fact that um, Hordak decided to give Catra an overhaul of her look, to make her to
Prime
make her,
correction. Sorry.
huh? Go ahead.
Prime, you meant.
Horde Prime, yes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, he had basically given her a haircut, and given her, and given her a conforming sort of um, horde outfit, to fit in with everybody else. And it was with the intention of making her conform, because everything had to look like Horde Prime. He's just expanding across the universe, and everything must look like him, or it must be destroyed. And what I love about that is that he accidentally gave um, Katra the gayest looking haircut possible. and so and so, like, once she was when she was on her redemption story, her, and like, she just had like the messy, like, the messy, like, short hair. It's like, oh wow, that looks very, very gay, and she already did before. And one thing I like is that it accentuates just how large her ears are, because like in previous seasons, she had that mane of unruly hair that was basically going in all directions, and her hair, and like her ears were kind of like were kind of part of that design, and that they were kind of going in the same direction, but like it was easy to like look at that and not realize like how large and pointy her ears are. But like now that she has short hair, like it's like, yeah, she has these huge cat ears, to the point where they become a design element in her space outfit that is even commented on.
And speaking of the haircut as well, by the way, I did remember being spoiled before I actually saw the episodes in question, but I was unsure if I would actually like the haircut, if I thought it would look good on her. I was like so against it because I loved her look originally, but two things really stuck out with me. A, it definitely was the gayest looking haircut ever, which as a or excuse me, as a lesbian person myself, it was amazing. But I also thought that the haircut itself was another way of showing growth for the character specifically. I felt that she had a new look. She had a new way of going about life. She had those talks to help her move forward, and it just basically made the transition that much easier for me as a viewer and possibly various others. That haircut, is a big point towards her growth because she's not the same character anymore. She's not the very angry, bitter, vengeful, spiteful person she was. She's got the short hair. She's got the new personality. She's got the willingness to listen. She's completely different, and that all played into it, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, like yeah, that you do raise a good point in that her short hair is basically like now she has to grow again. She's been like she's been you know cut down to a very primal, or a very like how do I put it, to she's like she's had someone strip for her. Now she's got to find a new way to be, and her hairdo kind of echoes that. Um, yeah, Callian says character development driven haircut, one of my favorite tropes. Yeah, whether it's like a depression beard or an isolation beard, or like somebody growing long hair, over time, or just like cutting it off or getting a buzz cut or something, or like, oh, one example from Legend of Korra, season four. One of the first things she did was cut off most of her hair, so she went from like her like signature, like long hair and ponytails, to yeah her long hair and ponytails to like this more like kind of a bob sort of look. I forget what that specific character it was called, but yeah, it's one of those things.